What's up and welcome back to the Kind of Funny Screencast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes and I'm joined by the sad boy himself, Barrett Courtney.
Tim, I'm ready to shoot some pikes and snort some lizards. You know what I'm saying, buddy? Let's go.
What a surprise. What a surprise that was. I'm sure we're going to get all into it, of course, with the one and only. We've had many weeks of being the Spider Boys, and here we are now, the Boba Boys. It is Anthony Carboni.
Oh, a pleasure to be here. A pleasure to be talking about our boy who just came out of the mucus pit and is going to be living a mucus-free life, hopefully.
He's so dry. He's so impossibly dry.
He came from being so covered in goop and mucus, and now he's so dry.
Yeah.
He's Barrett, dry.
What did you call him right before we went live?
Roberto Fettuccini.
I love it.
I love it. My very dry and wet boy.
I love it more than anything. Of course, this is the Kind of Funny Screencast where every single week, at least once a week, we review a TV show, a movie, or react to a trailer. There's a lot of entertainment stuff going on early in 2022. So there's going to be many weeks we're doing it multiple times a week, which is super fun. You can get it on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it on podcast services by searching for Kind of Funny Screencast, and we'll be right there for you. The fun thing is a lot of you were asking for our trailer reactions to also be put up on the podcast feed because we react to the trailer, but then we spend like 20 minutes talking about the thing. So that is going to be on the podcast feed as well, starting today, because later we're going to react to the Batman trailer that went live over the holiday break that we haven't been able to react to yet because we were on break as well. So you're going to be able to check that out. I'm very excited. We have a lot of cool screencast stuff coming up. We got Boba Fett today. We're talking about episodes 1 and 2. We're hopefully going to be doing these week to week for every episode for the rest of the season. And also next week, we're going to start doing that for DC's Peacemaker, the James Gunn show on HBO Max. Really excited for that as well. Fingers crossed in the most hopeful way, this Corona stuff kind of like gets a little chiller in the next couple weeks, because if it does, we will do a Jackass Forever review and an Uncharted review. But that's only if it's safe to go to those movie theaters. So we'll have to wait and see. A little housekeeping for you. Today, actually, right now on the 5th, it is our 7-year anniversary of being Kind of Funny, of us leading IGN. I can't believe that. That's insane. So to celebrate that, we're going to celebrate our 7 years on the 7th. That is this Friday. We're going to be doing a super long stream. Everyone's going to be hanging out. Shenanigans will be had. Will Kevin and Mike stay up till like 4 a.m.? Probably,
yeah,
but we'll have to wait and find out. Twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames this Friday. Come hang out. Let's have some fun. And another new thing that we're starting as of now with this episode of Screencast, we are going to allow you to write your questions, your comments, your concerns, your theories, whatever it is you want to hear us talk about these trailers or TV shows or movies, by going to kindoffunny.com/screencast. We are not putting that behind a Patreon paywall. It is just for anybody to write in so we can, stir the conversations, get some things going. But if you did want to be a Patreon supporter, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, where now a new thing starting this year is you can watch this show live as it's being recorded, and you can get the show ad-free. And you can also be a Patreon producer, just like Molecule, James Davis, and Pranksy have done. We appreciate you all so very much. Today, we're brought to you by Upstart, Raycon, and ExpressVPN. I know that was a very long rigmarole. It's longer than normal. I promise it won't always be that long. So let's get right into it. The Book of Boba Fett. We're reviewing episodes 1 and 2. Anthony Carboni, I want to start with you.
Sure. What do you want to start with? Where do you want to start, Tim?
Where are you at with the show so far?
Where am I at so far? This is, I can tell already, this is a slow burn, lore building, connective tissue kind of show. That's what I can say. I can say that it's probably good that y'all waited to have 2 episodes in this in review, because it's just revving up the engines. There's a lot of little things that have been mentioned already and a lot of little hints at what's going to be going on. But I think right now this show is just kind of settling into what it's going to become. And that's not bad. I love that. And I love what it means for Star Wars. It has this show has already teased some stuff that has some very long reaching implications, and is already teasing some things that we've been wanting to see for a long time. So I'm cool with it moving a little slow. I'm cool with that, but it is a little slow to start.
Barrett, Courtney.
I agree with you. I agree with the slow pacing right now, the slow burn in the first 2 episodes. But again, I don't dislike that. You know, we don't always have to be running like Greg Miller and Andy Cortez. Sometimes I just like to take a nice stroll, and that's what the first 2 episodes have been so far. So I totally agree with you there. I think it's also weird as hell, and I love that. Like especially the second episode that we just watched last night. Like it is getting into some weird stuff that I just personally really dig. We're only 2 episodes in. We have, 5 more episodes to go after this. And so I don't know if I'm confident enough to say, like, if I think it's good yet, because I don't think we've seen enough, but I'm really enjoying the ride so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Tim?
It's interesting for me because I'm at a place where I'm struggling to say that I like it, or at least, you know what, I do like it. I'm struggling to say I really like it. And I think that the distinction there is I'm struggling because I know that I should love it. And I think that that's been an issue I've been having with a lot of the Disney Plus shows, mainly on the Star Wars side of things, where it's like, I feel like there needs to be an animated included. This would translate to the MCU side with What If, for what that means for the MCU shows. I feel like it is on Disney to give these shows a weight to a more mainstream audience, to be like, no, this is prime time viewing. This stuff matters. Like, this isn't optional. You need to watch this. And I feel like they've had enough moments early on that it doesn't feel required. It does very much feel like if you want it, it's there, but you don't need to watch it. And I just don't like that for something like Star Wars, especially for live action TV shows that we've waited for forever and hoping would one day happen. Having said that, like, this show's kind of delivering the things that we'd want. I just think that this just proves once again how entitled and privileged we are to be getting so much of this content, where we get to see Boba Fett come out of the Sarlacc pit and we're all kind of like, oh, this is neat, instead of like, whoa, this is crazy. But I think we've all had 30 plus years or in whatever it is to like think about what Boba Fett returning could look like. And I think that it's a bigger problem with Star Wars overall, where you know, we talk about this a lot. There's the movies, they made their decisions, whether it's the original trilogy, prequels, or sequels. All of them have their own pros and cons. But with all of them, there are things that the audience latches onto that we want to see more of. So then the shows and books and comics need to find backwards ass ways to make it make sense. It's like, oh man, we like Darth Maul, but you killed him, so we got to make it make sense. Well, you liked Boba Fett, but we killed him. We got to make it make sense.
Yo, excuse me. Darth Maul came back as a robot spider, and it was the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah, it was great.
He was a robot spider, man. That's not bending over backwards. That's doing something wild.
Resurrected by his brother, who found him on like this junk planet with a little slug buddy. You know, like, it's great.
Put him right back together. He's a spider now. That's great.
He should have kept the spider legs for longer, I'm just saying.
He's a spider that talks like a Shakespearean villain now. Eat shit. This is what he is. It's the best. I think...
But that's the thing. It being the best and it working are different things.
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to say. Number one, you're wrong. It worked. Number two, this is something that I talk about with people all the time, particularly when I was hosting the Star Wars show and everything. You know, I'm somebody that people want to talk to about Star Wars a lot, which is a lovely thing because I like to talk about Star Wars. The comparison between Star Wars and Marvel, I think, is going to happen. And I think it's very interesting because one thing that the MCU does not have going against it that I think Star Wars does sometimes is the weight of time and the expectation of certain things that have been imagined for such a long time or anticipated for such a long time. You know, we're talking about Boba Fett coming back and being like, well, it's moving a little slow and I don't know. And it's kind of like interesting. And like, I wanted Boba Fett to come back and fucking Boba Fett. And like, but remember, like, they're telling a good, well-paced sort of like Western crime story. And they're also introducing the idea of Boba Fett to 2 generations right now, you know? Or to people who are not so invested in what used to be the EU and is now, is now sort of like the in the comics and the books and things like that. There are people that, like, I've always said, Boba Fett, not one of my favorite Star Wars characters, because in the films he looks cool, and then a guy who can't see hits him with a stick and he falls into a hole. Like, if you're somebody who's only watched the movies, maybe you got to be convinced that Boba Fett's kind of a badass.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you
Totally.
have to be told this story, and maybe this has to be. So I think like we put a lot of weight onto Star Wars because it's such a multi-generational thing, and we put so much weight onto these characters because we've wanted a Boba Fett show and we've wanted the Boba Fett story for so long that, you know, we kind of hype ourselves out of just kind of like sitting down and like leaning into it and letting it be this weird Western Robert Rodriguez thing that it's going to be, which I absolutely love, you know?
So that's where I come in though with this, where I get stuck with the I like it, and I'm hoping by the end of it I can say that I do really like the show. In the same way that with Mandalorian season 2 I did, where I came in season 1 I was left a little bit more in the like I'm happy it exists, but it's not quite hitting the mark for me. And then season 2, as it like pretty early on, I would say it started giving me those hooks where I was like, I can't wait for next episode. Like I need to know what happens next, like every single week. And to me, I'm like that ended. I'm like that was really good. I did really like that. And I think that this show has the potential for it, but early on it's like earlier you're saying it's like well-paced Western. I think that's my biggest issue with it critically is like I think the pacing in the show is actually really, really bad because of the flashbacks and because of the timing of the flashbacks and amount of the flashbacks. It's untraditional to end an episode in the flashback part, and they've now done it twice, and I kind of feel like it's giving us a lot of backstory that goes back to what I was saying earlier of them needing to find ways to explain what happened, but they're almost over explaining why he was acting like a Tusken Raider in Mandalorian when we last saw him. Like, I feel like we can kind of put some of those things together. So they're already answering questions that we haven't been answering asking for 30 years that no one was really asking for 2 years. You know what I mean?
I'm going to say this, and I said the same thing with season 1 of The Mandalorian too. It's TV now, baby. Relax. It's TV. Relax. Sit back. With this, we're going to get 7 episodes, and then maybe we're going to get 7 more. Maybe we're going to get this every year from now on. And so, like, let's just ease in. And I want it to be a little more exciting. And I do have, like, I do notice some of the things you're noticing about the pacing. And I am kind of like, maybe we keep some of this stuff a secret for a little longer, Boba. Maybe we just, maybe we move a little forward. But I don't think I mind it as much. I think you always want to wait, and this is why it's interesting that we're doing this now. You always want to wait for episode 3. Episode 3 is where they twist, right? Because if they do everything the same for 3 episodes, then that becomes the formula of the show and people get bored. I think it'll be interesting to see how they change it up for episode 3.
See, that's interesting. And Barrett, I want to get to you in just one sec. The last thing I want to say about this conversation here is, the weight of Star Wars and stuff. Like one of the things that we have talked about ad nauseum forever is it always goes back to Tatooine. It's always Tatooine, blah, 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 blah. And like, I'm not one of those people that necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Like it kind of makes sense to me, especially in the context of this show. Like Boba Fett coming back to lead Jabba's palace is one of the coolest fucking things ever. Like the fact that is what this show is about is just so damn cool. But them being back on Tatooine, I do think means that I am most interested when you're giving me something that I haven't seen before. And this show so far has done that. The back history and lore world building of like them mentioning in episode 2, like there used to be oceans here. And like the weird kind of visions that Boba's getting, like, was that Tatooine with the oceans? That's fucking cool to think about. And I like that type of stuff. But then when the majority of both of these episodes kind of feels like a rehash of season 2, episode 1 of Mandalorian, I just feel like the show already feels too familiar to Mandalorian, not just because there's a dude in Mandalorian armor, but because of the setting, because they're with a group of Tusken Raiders or Jawas facing off against these big monsters. Like it just starts to feel like, didn't I already see this? And that to me is the thing that I can't wait to get out of, because whenever they're in the present time and they're dealing with the crime lord stuff, Ming-Na Wen is fantastic. I am so much more invested and interested. And the fact that we're getting comic characters, Black Creston coming in, I never thought we would see him in live action.
I was like, it is, right? I was like, it is.
Once you see the shoulder pads, like once you notice the shoulder pads, you're like, that's his. Yeah. And that was one of the things like hard to watch at midnight when, my wife is in the same bed and I'm listening on my headphones, like watching on my PlayStation, and I want to like get up and yell, and I'm like,
the way Robert Rodriguez meant for you to watch it.
Exactly. Well, no, I watched it on the big TV on the PlayStation. Okay. It's just I had to like watch it on plug my headphones into the controller so I wouldn't wake anybody up. But it was still one of those like I wanted to get up and yell, and it was like I had to be so quiet about it because that was like I can't believe this character who was like so I wouldn't say like a huge character, but like someone who's been
Huge to
throughout
me.
the entire comics of like Aphra, Vader, even like popping into the main Star Wars comic book series. Like that was such a cool moment, and knowing that like him and Boba, like I don't know if like their history is huge, but they do know each other, and like they have like worked together in some like context before. So like yeah, like those moments, I totally agree with you, Tim, of like finally getting to like where he's at right now in this whole like crime lord syndicate thing on Tatooine. You know, meeting with these Hutt twins, who I'm not familiar
Which is
with.
cool as hell.
Yeah, like super cool. Like I loved that exchange. That whole scene was super fun. I love. I forget her character name.
Give me full on Grabala. Give me Master Shake,
Yeah.
Grabala the Hutt. Make him canon. Bring him to Tatooine.
And that's
bring me Grabala the Hutt.
And like I get the complaint of like especially with 2 episodes in a row, like having these flashback sequences and having them take up so much time of an episode and ending with flashbacks. I kind of get where you're coming at from. The only complaint I have with the flashbacks is like we always have to telegraph it by going to the
Ugliest transition of all time.
Well, but also like he's always got to be in the bantha tank to like for us to go into the flashbacks. It's like all right. But I kind of like it because I feel like, especially with the second episode, with the whole train sequence and them facing off against Pikes and him telling them like, hey, like fuck off, you have to pay these like indigenous people to like come through here and use their land. So go back to your crime lord, and like he's got to pay up now. And like I feel like there's going to be little things that may connect those two sides. Like I feel like there is a reason that we're getting these flashbacks, not just to show him coming out of the Sarlacc pit and stuff like that. I like the flashbacks are
hidden.
less.
It's hidden in the theme song. Like you heard it, right? Like it's
Well,
in the.
what are you
We'll
talking
get to
about?
it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But go ahead. Finish your thought.
But like the flashbacks for me so far, and maybe I'm reading too much into it as I usually do with Star Wars, but like it's less about like, oh, how is he a Tusken Raider? Why was he so Tusken Raider like in episode whatever it was in Mandalorian season 2? But like it's more of like, this man is at the lowest of his fucking low, and he needs to like, and he's learning of like appreciating this land more that maybe he's taken for granted before. There's also some interesting they keep alluding to like is still his grief with his father, which I'm interested to see like if that connects anymore, because it's like
Omega.
Omega. Maybe a little bit of Omega. But I really like that we're slowly seeing, in the flashback era at least, of just like this man at fucking rock bottom and slowly just integrating himself more into the land and the people, and respecting that before he decides like I need to be the crime ruler here, and I need to like there are people I need to protect here, and I want to do that, and I also like want to put people in their place as well. Which that's why I really dig the sequences of the flashbacks, especially in episode 2. I thought that whole flashback sequence was really, really cool.
Yeah, I think whereas the Mandalorian, the first season was about finding the armor, finding the equipment, refinding your place. I think for Boba Fett, it's kind of interesting because it's like for people like me who, when I was a kid, was like, yeah, cool armor. He didn't do anything. Like, you know what I mean? When I first saw the movies, and then of course, like throughout the prequels and the Clone Wars like you get more of an idea of who Boba is. But like, I love the idea of, we have stripped you of everything that makes Boba Fett cool. We have stripped you of all your advantages.
Interesting. Which is simply the armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. Yeah.
I love, and that was like that's a great point, because
like,
I remember
figure out
thinking
who
of
you
that.
are,
Yeah,
you
and I
know?
remember thinking that like when they're on top of the train and they're fighting the Pikes, and the one Tusken Raider like rams its speeder into like the back half of the train and stuff like that, and he's on top and he's fighting, and he's just in these white rags, and he hasn't changed whatsoever. Like he's still in these white rags, just dirty and dry as hell. No one will give this man any moisture, and it was one of those moments where it's like, Boba the character is cool now, not just like him earning this like relearning who he is as a warrior, specifically in the like Tusken Raider kind of like flashback sequences. I was like really, really into that, of like how that whole build up and him kind of respecting them as warriors and learning all about that. I just, yeah, I adore it. And of course, you know, the drug trip that he goes on a little bit after that was just
did not expect the lizard to go in the brain. I just simply didn't. When I saw it, I was like, what are they doing with this? Did not expect it to go in his nose at all. Question for you guys as big fucking Star Wars nerds. Is that lizard that thing we've seen before? Is that the Salamari or whatever?
Oh.
The anti-force lizards? Because those are the only lizards I've ever known. I also thought it was weird that this show had a rat in it, just a straight up rat.
I think this, I think this is a new thing. You know, one of the things that Dave Filoni has always been a big proponent of, and I think Jon Favreau and Robert Rodriguez feel the same way. Is like there are some things that were in early Star Wars that we threw away as jokes, and through like characters that we threw away as jokes, and cultures that we threw away as jokes, and we didn't mean to connect that to real world cultures, but they kind of did a little bit, you know, because when you talk about Tusken Raiders, like being sort of based on Bedouins, you know, or other people that live in the desert, and you kind of turn them into like a screamy, like gun mummy joke, like that's a little weird. But I love the idea of taking them and giving them an entire cultural and spiritual history that sort of involves, and dude, fucking Dave Filoni loves a vision quest, doesn't he? Like the dude loves a vision quest. Is it a lizard? Really is it a door into another world? Is it a planet that's not really a planet? You're gonna have a vision, my dude, and it's gonna be wacky. It's gonna be wacky as shit. Dave loves that shit, man.
Yeah. He really loves the vision quest in Empire Strikes Back, where Luke goes into
my God.
Yeah. Like that's probably one of his
What
favorite
if
scenes.
the cave, but 3 episodes of Clone Wars? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I think that's something new, and I do like the flashback sequences as a way to show respect for the Tuskens, who are now not Tusken Raiders, they're Tuskens, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, even the making of your own staff as like a rite of passage.
Yeah, and I
cool.
liked that because it reminded me of like the comic where it explains that C-3PO has his red arm in Force Awakens, and that's how they sold that comic, was like, you get to learn how he got the red arm, and everybody was like, why? But then when you read the comic, there's an actual like
because
cool
it's
story.
good.
Yeah, there's a cool story being told there, and that was the only way that they knew how to sell that cool story to a bunch of dumb internet comic book nerds, right? And so I loved that moment of them building the staff, because it reminded me of that. Because like, yeah, you could say it's like we didn't need to know like how he got the staff, but I loved that like they walked him through like the kind of like importance of like making your own weapon, and like him like carving literally every little detail. Like I really loved that scene.
Yeah, and it's showing a parallel between all of these cultures, right? Like the point of this flashback is, I think, showing Boba Fett turning from a bounty hunter into somebody who respects other people and like understands a little bit about like, oh, we're all kind of the same. And the idea of build your saber, build your staff. You know, you're a samurai, you have to sharpen your own blade. Like all of these things are connected, right?
Yeah.
You're a gunslinger, but service and build your revolver. Like these are all things with like warrior class stuff. And I love that they throw all that stuff into here.
And I love that
Tusken tradition.
I love that we get it with Boba, because like the last time we've significantly seen him as a character and not a background guy who's got cool armor, is like he was a teenager almost, and he was kind of a shitty kid, and he's just like doesn't respect anybody or just anything, and he's just like this. I feel like the last time we significantly saw him was like Clone Wars, and him doing like other like being a gun for hire kind of dude.
Yeah, it was like on Aura Singh's ship, I think, is the last time we saw him, right?
There's a couple of I think he's in like 2 or 3 arcs, and they all kind of blend together to me. And so, but we saw him at some point.
He was a little smoosh faced kid.
And he was a piece of shit. And I love that we're getting this with like him as like an adult who has gone through the worst kind of shit and is like actually taking the time to, you know, learn about himself and others. And I think that's really cool.
But before we move on, let me tell you about our sponsors. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like leaving your keys in your car while you run into the gas station. You're probably fine, but it could be a disaster. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network, you're basically giving someone else the keys to your personal data, like your passwords, your financial details, the passwords to your financial life. And it doesn't even take much technical knowledge for someone to hack you. But ExpressVPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your data and the world that'd take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past. Plus, it's super easy to use. You just open the app and press a single button. I've been using it. KindaFunny's been using it. It's keeping our internet safe. And I love that. I love it so much. I love how easy it is to use, and I love that I just don't even need to worry about it. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/kindafunny. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny. And you can get an extra 3 months for free by going to expressvpn.com/kindafunny. What would it feel like if we were finally free of high interest loans or credit card debt? Well, Upstart can help you make that final payment so you can get ahead. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether you're looking to pay off credit cards, consolidate high interest debt, or fund some personal expenses, Upstart can help you get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Rather than looking only at your credit score, Upstart considers other factors like your income, current employment, and credit history to find you a smarter rate. One of my really good friends did exactly this, and it helped him out so much. Just consolidating all of his debt into one place allowed him to focus and just take care of it. And now he's debt free thanks to Upstart. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today. And when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny, that's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know that we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Upstart.com/kindafunny. There's so much going on right now, whether it's stuff you're excited about, like traveling, or stuff you'd rather avoid, like traffic. You can't always control the vibes out there, but you can control the vibes in your own head when you've got a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears. With Raycon's new everyday earbuds, they look, feel, and sound better than ever. One of my best friends, James Burke, he loves these things. He's always out there when he's running, when he's playing his baseball. He's a baseball coach, so he does a lot of those two things. And Raycon's new everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. They've got an improved rubber oil look and feel and optimized gel tips for a perfect in-ear fit. Plus, you get 3 new sound profiles, so the sound is great no matter what you're listening to, whether it's a podcast like this one, or some hip-hop, or some rock, or anything in between. Right now, KindaFunny listeners, you can get 15% off your Raycon order at buyraycon.com/kindafunny. That's BUYRAYCON.com/kindafunny to save 15% on Raycons. Buyraycon.com/kindafunny. So that's the thing that I do find really cool about this is the fact that we have so much backstory and lore and footage of other movies and events that have happened, like getting the random flashes of Camino and seeing like the waves crash against it and all that, and like just like the alternate shots from episode 3 of him holding his dad's helmet and all that stuff. Yeah, episode 2. You're right. It's so awesome that like they have that footage. It reminds me of like with the MCU shows, like with Hawkeye, like being able to go back and have moments from like Black Widow and all this shit. It just, these are things, or the Avengers, like these are things that exist. And I think that that's really rad. On top of Bad Batch having just happened. Obviously, these shows, you said at the top of this show, Carboni, but like it really is about that connective tissue. Like this show is not necessarily for the mainstream. And I don't think that that's the right move, but it's the move they're making. And Filoni is continuing to Filoni-ize all of this stuff.
Yeah, but I think it is for the mainstream too. I think if you were somebody who didn't know very much about Boba Fett and you started watching this show, like we
it's
all go like,
confusing as hell.
We all go like, oh, it's our favorite Wookiee, yay! But like, you don't need to know. Like, you don't need to know that. I think you could probably watch this with just the movies and like the movies and the Mandalorian and be like, I get what's going on. I don't get everything, but that's okay.
Yeah,
you know?
It's complicated because I'm not saying that it needs to be like dumbed down to the point of anybody can watch this without watching anything else
why you
and
hate Star Wars.
it. No, I want to be.
I know you want to like Star Wars and you don't, and I get it.
It's not. No, honestly, it's not that. I really do like Star Wars, and I'm enjoying this. I am excited to see where it goes. I am very hopeful actually that it's going to like stick the landing. I just think the problem is Star Wars has to be so many different things to so many different people because of what it is. And that is the issue, is that like what I'm saying I want out of it is not necessarily what someone else that matters just as much as me wants. And so that's why I think that it kind of gets pulled in a bunch of ways, because what I'm saying is hypocritical, because I watched it with Gia, who like Star Wars, definitely not like us. And she watched all the movies, she's watched all the shows, she's caught up at this point, watched them all multiple times thanks to In Review.
She lives with you, right?
But exactly. But it's like the way that this show starts, and it's like him in the Sarlacc pit, we're all like, they're doing it, this is all happening. But it's like, to normal people, it's like, okay, we just saw the Mandalorian. There's this armor. There was the Boba Fett guy, but the same dude. There's the Tusken Raiders. There's just so much shit that when they deal with the flashbacks, it's not clear. It's clear as day to us, and that's the thing, that it's complicated.
I don't know. I think even if you had only watched The Mandalorian, if the first Star Wars thing you had ever watched was The Mandalorian, you'd be like, that's that guy Boba Fett from The Mandalorian. Ew, he was trapped in a giant worm. Oh, those little guys from The Mandalorian took his armor.
But the giant worm thing is the thing that, like,
oh, sure, the giant worm is weird if you've never seen. But, like, whatever. He was in a giant worm, man. He's out of it now. Yeah. Like,
I do get what you're. I get what you're saying, because the thing that I was thinking about last night too, going into chapter 2, and I know this is a very on the nose comparison, but the Book of Boba Fett reminds me of like reading like actual, like the Ahsoka book, or like the new Thrawn trilogy and stuff like that. Like, it's very in the weeds on like certain details, and it's not for everybody, for sure. And I think there are aspects that like is a little harder to sell on the mainstream, but that's kind of what I enjoy about it. And I know that's probably not best translated to a TV show, but this show does remind me of like, maybe they had an idea for a book and they're like, well, we just brought him back in like a different show, like let's make his own show, because it feels it's very slow, there's not a lot going on, there's a lot of inner thought and like just sitting with emotions and stuff like that. But I totally understand if like maybe doing that isn't the best thing to bring in everybody, but I really love it.
Hold on, real quick. I want to say this because I don't want to, like, I started this and where it got caught out, it sounds like I'm being negative on it. I like this interconnective shit they're doing. I just don't think it works for everybody. But I think,
I know.
For me, it works really well with this, where I'm interested that we are getting this point where every line of dialogue matters. They are building out this Filoniverse. It is what it is. And if you look at this show for what it is, not what you want it to be, what you think it should be for this person, that person, for what it is, it's like there's a lot to be excited about. And especially as they introduce comic characters like Black Crest, I'm like, cool, that opens up my world of like, they could do anything. Mandalorian season 2 ended with Luke Skywalker. They can do anything. But on top of that, they can introduce the twins. And you're like, who the fuck are the twins? Is there any twins that we know? And it ends up being 2 fucking Hutts. Like, I love that they're kind of like playing with our expectations in ways that already I feel like they're delivering success stories where I'm like, okay, cool. I am interested in where all this might be potentially going in this world. And the idea that like, by the end of the season, where are we? Are the like does Boba like rule Tatooine, and like are the Tuskens like now like a respected group that are welcome to the city? Like, it's kind of cool.
I'm putting money down right now saying that Boba Fett at the end of this season is not the daimyo of Tatooine. I'm putting money down right now that he does not stay in power, either because he's kicked out or he decides that he doesn't like it. But I want to say, like, in terms of starting out episode 1 here and talking about this connective tissue and like, did this start as a book? Did this start as whatever? These seem like some really long laid plans for me. So the theme song actually includes John Powell's theme from Solo for the Crimson Dawn.
So that's fucking awesome. I didn't notice that, but it would make so much sense for them to be involved.
The Crimson Dawn theme is in there. We know that Maul runs the Crimson Dawn right now. I have a feeling if they had gotten to do...
Well, he doesn't anymore. Maul is Maul is very much dead.
That's right. He's dead again.
He's actually he's most likely
he's dead now. Dead. So I have a feeling if Solo had gotten to continue and we had gotten Solo sequels, a lot of the things we're going to see in this Boba Fett series about crime syndicates, introducing the Star Wars underworld, these are things that they've wanted to introduce. There were TV shows that were planned that were canceled. There were movies that were planned. There was 1313, the Boba Fett game that was canceled. All this stuff that was supposed to introduce us to the underworld, to the crime, to the nitty-gritty, like, this is what regular people are doing to survive in Star Wars. This is what we're getting tied into right now. And I think by the time we get to the end of this season, a lot of that is going to be kind of like laid open. We're already seeing how tied up in a lot of different political and syndicate sort of interests even Tatooine is. And there ain't shit going on Tatooine. Right? And it's we're already embroiled in like 87,000 things by the end of it. And even if you don't know anything about Star Wars, you're looking at the Twi'leks and you're like, yo, what is up with these Twi'leks? How come they're all shady?
So
you know what I mean? What's going on with the
Jennifer
mayor?
Beal, by the way. Oh my God. I love her. I want to see her character so much more. I hope that she is integral into whatever the hell's going on.
Something that I love about Twi'leks and what they're doing in this show is like, if you don't know much about it and all you know is like the Mandalorian again or like whatever, it's kind of interesting because we know through the history of the Twi'leks that like they were subjugated, they were conquered, they were kind of destroyed, but they used to be a very proud, and a very, just like all these other cultures, they were proud cultures. So we're seeing, 30 years after the original trilogy, where Twi'leks are slave dancing girls and things like that, they put themselves back into power, but they put themselves back into power in these places where like they don't look like they have power because they don't want to be too threatening, right? And I love that. I love Jennifer Beals like, I just run this and we run it at your leisure and I'm here for you. Or the major domo who's like pretending that, oh, I just speak for the mayor. I don't have any power. Oh, which, by the way, the dude from Veep as that guy is fucking crushing.
I don't know how I feel about it. It's one of those things where like I like his performance. It just feels very un-Star Wars, which I think might be a good thing. Like it's different. We're getting welcome to a different side of all this stuff. But I'm getting vibes of that the woman from Tatooine in The Mandalorian.
In Mandalorian, what's her face? Shit.
Where I'm just like, this doesn't feel quite right to me. But I don't know. It's fun.
With all the crime syndicate stuff, Carboni, right? That we're getting teases of, we're seeing these Hutt twins. We saw the Pikes. Boba kicked the shit out of them. Does Emilia Clarke come back?
100%.
Yeah.
And now look, I'm always the hype guy that's always like 100% of things that end up not happening. Doctor Strange, I said 100% was in the WandaVision finale. He was not. But you know what? I'm saying it right now. 100% Emilia Clarke as Kira in this show. We've said it for years, Barrett.
Not in this show.
Star Wars Solo, a Star Wars movie, whatever the fuck it was called, story. Yeah. Should have been a show, and it could have been a really good show. Episodically, that could have made a lot of sense. Have every single episode how Solo got his name. Maybe we don't need that one, but like how Solo met Chewie, how Solo did this, how Solo did that. It could have been super rad. So taking those ideas into an episodic thing, which it seems like they're already kind of start, I think it's gonna happen. Do we see Harrison Ford? Have they met in the comics?
Do we see not Harrison Ford, Alden Ehrenreich?
Other guy. No. Timeline-wise, that would make no sense.
No, no. Listen,
he just age him up a little bit. That's fine.
I don't know that I don't think we see Kira in this. We know that they're working on the Lando series. I think we see her in Lando.
Interesting. I think Lando gets canceled.
Really?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't know about
that. Listen, I'll tell you what. For all the hiccups and jump starts and things like that some of the movie productions seem to have from the outside. The TV stuff is going pretty smoothly. Obviously, we had a little bit of a problem with Gina Carano.
Yeah.
Obviously. But other than that, it's going pretty smoothly. The TV stuff seems to be doing pretty well. I think, obviously, everything changes all the time, and I think it depends a lot on how this series does too, but I think Lando still happens. I think Lando still, more than anything, I think just because he loved being Lando.
Yeah.
He had so much fun doing it.
Some of the best part of that movie.
So good. Yeah. So damn good.
Joe Mertens in the Patreon chat says Amy Sedaris. That's who we were thinking of.
Yes.
Oh, I loved Amy Sedaris. Listen, get a little weird. Have a little fun, man. Make it a little weird. I think
it
that's
works
okay.
It works with me now with the Twi'lek. It did not work for me for Amy Sedaris, but
Oh, I loved
their own.
Amy Sedaris. Amy Sedaris is this weird lady who looks like Ripley and is like, is she gonna steal that baby? Like, I loved it. It was so good. They have such a good track record for pulling in comedic performers and really doing something with them. Matt Berry as the droid in the palace.
That's great.
I loved him all the way through this. And then, Richard Adeoye as the droid in The Mandalorian. I'm just like, they just keep pulling in all these really hilariously fun people and putting them in there. And I think they work every time.
Going back to the Crimson Dawn stuff, because I do think that it'd be interesting for them to go back to that. I think it would make sense potentially storyline wise with where we're building to, and also that feels like one of the most open-ended storylines, at least things that were like developed in the movies that we haven't really gone back to.
They could go anywhere with it,
Yeah, so that's all really interesting to me. Barrett, I know you've been keeping up with the comics more than I have. The War of the Bounty Hunters story arc going on. I know that Kira's involved in that as well, and that they're
not familiar. Is that like something that's going on right now?
That's in the comics, yeah.
Yeah, it's been the last like couple months or whatever. But
no.
The question I have for you guys is, do we know, has Kira seen Han Solo since Solo? Because I don't think so.
As far as we know, no.
Okay. Because
as far as we know, they never ran into each other again. But I always had, obviously the way Solo ended, I really thought like if they had gotten to make a trilogy out of it, I really think that the thing that turns Han into a hard-hearted scoundrel, I always thought he was going to have to go up against Kira as the head of a syndicate. Yeah, and I really wanted to see that.
That's cool. Yeah. So cool.
That's where I always thought they were leading with it.
Let's go around. I want to have some fun here. All right. For stupid fun cameos of people like showing up, do we think Kira shows up in this show? I say yes. Anthony says no. Barrett?
I'm going to say no.
Does Han Solo show up in this show?
I think we get an implication of the Kira character. I don't think we see Emilia Clarke's face in the show.
Okay. God, I think we do. Listen, I want to be wrong, Tim.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want you to know that I want to be wrong on this.
This is just
so
for
bad.
fun on the show.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I want you to know I just don't see it happen. But God, I want it to happen. I love Kira so much.
Yeah, she was a really fascinating character.
Do we see Han Solo in any form? No. Actually, no. Do we see Harrison Ford?
No
shot.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no as well.
If we see younger Han Solo at all throughout the rest of Star Wars, they're going to try to. They're probably going to go the Aaron Reich route.
Yeah.
And but okay, Barrett, do you think we see him
in this show? No. I think if we see him, they'll save that for Lando.
Do you guys think we see Watto?
How can we? He's just so small.
He's so tiny. There's no way to see him with the human eye. I'd like to see a Toydarian. I don't think it's Watto.
I feel like at this point, Watto's got to be dead. There's no way he survived this long.
Somebody had to have killed Watto by now.
Yeah. It's been a little over 30 years at this point. Fucker's got.
There was a legacy story.
How long did Toydarians live?
He was already pretty older too.
Yeah.
Already in episode 1. That's a good question.
In a legacy story, Vader came back and killed him. But as far as I know, in canon currently, he might be alive.
Who knows?
Dude, if I had ever even looked at Anakin Skywalker wrong his entire life, I'd be so worried.
Oh, totally.
I'd be so worried, man.
Yeah.
If I gave him the wrong change, like if I was the cashier at Dexter's Diner and I gave him the wrong change one day, or he asked for a chalky milk and I fucked up and gave him a regular milk, I'd be like, I'm dead. It's just a matter of time.
So I'm going to say yes to Watto. Are you both saying no?
I'm saying no to Watto.
I'm saying no to Watto.
And then this is just getting ahead. I just want this on record now that we're recording. Do we see Dexter in the Kenobi series?
Fuck yes. I think Dexter is all over the Kenobi series. I think it's 8 episodes of Dexter fucking Jetster. That dude's got a past.
he's got to have a buddy who's like in the know, like in like the it's called the Outer Rim. What's the more like central planets? Carboni. What do they call that area? The Inner Rim, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. The Inner Rim, where you put your lime juice.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's got to have like a man on the inside, and I think Dex will definitely be that man. We got to see him. Omega.
Oh, the core, not the core planets. Because he was on the core planet.
It's called the core, right?
And then there's the outer, and then there's the Outer Rim, and then there's wild space.
Yeah.
So he was like, because he was on Coruscant, which is a core planet.
Yeah. That's like the core of the core planets as well. Yeah. I think he's got to have like a man on the inside. I think that'll be his link for sure. Will be Dex. Omega for this.
Oh yeah, good call. I don't know. I
think it's too early to cast her in a live action role. I think they probably are still trying to figure out how to develop her more in her own series with Bad Batch.
But here's a follow-up. Clone troopers. Do we see any of our favorite clone boys? We know some of them survive. Do we see an elderly Rex or anything like that?
No,
you know?
I'm going to say no, just because I don't think it's, at least for right now in the story that they're telling in the first 2 episodes of this Boba Fett show, I don't see how it will be significant for Boba's character to introduce them.
That's fair.
See, I'm going to say yes, because the fact that they gave Tamora his own show, they're going to want to have the fun moment of him acting against himself.
Yeah, it's a matter of where they think it's appropriate pacing-wise.
Yeah.
If there's a way to introduce like a second or third,
of Boba Fett, I guess I'm not confident right now.
The reason I'm a little like cocky about some of these predictions is that I don't think there's going to be a season 2 of this. I think that this is going to be a one and done one.
You think
and then Mandalorian season 3 is going to be the closest thing to a season 2 we get of this, where it's like this Yeah, because I guess that's the thing, is like really looking at the layout of these shows over the next couple of years. Like the fact that Bad Batch happened and did introduce Omega and have the Camino gets destroyed, or at least that city on Camino
such a good
gets
scene.
destroyed. Yeah, that was so dope. So damn dope. But with that, I feel like with what they're showing in this, like they're going to have to connect Omega to the Mandalorian timeline at some point. Or I feel like they wouldn't have introduced her otherwise, or like kept her alive.
She's just set up as too important to only be in Bad Batch or only be in animated stuff. Which sounds dismissive, but I'm not being dismissive of the animated stuff. I just mean eventually it's all one canon, so all this stuff has to cross over. And if somebody is very important,
and if they're going to do a crossover between an animated show and a live action show, they're going to make it live action. I think we'll get live action Omega eventually. I don't know if like it's in season 1 of Book of Boba, or in the Book of Boba Fett. I think they'll want to do at least another season of Bad Batch, get a little bit more of her character before we see a crossover with her in a live action thing.
So here's something interesting that you just sparked my memory on, is we do know Bad Batch season 2 is happening. So the fact that that's a reality means that, like, okay, maybe they might hold it for later. But season 1, so when we think about the pacing of the release schedule of these shows, having Mandalorian season 2, then Bad Batch, then this, who was in Bad Batch as kind of like cameo characters? Fennec, right?
Yeah.
Who was Fennec facing off against?
Cad Bane. That's what everybody wants.
Who does Cad? Yeah, and I feel like that they're gonna connect that into this. Do we see Cad Bane in this?
Especially with like, wasn't there a cut Cad Bane Boba Fett fight at some point
from Clone Wars?
I just look, Cad Bane. I know it's all Western. I know it's all space Western. I know it's all I know that's
is that getting too Western for you, Carboni?
Cad Bane has always been, I don't mind Cad Bane in animated stuff. I just feel, and I understand he's very well loved, and I get that, and I love Cad Bane too, but like, it's just a little too on the nose and silly. He's got that big cowboy hat, and he's just, I don't know, man, and his weird space 6 shooters, and I love him, and maybe we keep him animated. I don't know.
I think they could
don't
do it. I
know.
think they could do it, especially because like if they could pull off bringing Ahsoka into live action and making
Ahsoka's different. Ahsoka's very different.
I know it's different, but stick with me here. Of like.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love Ahsoka, like Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character. If they could bring her over to live action and not make me want to tear my hair out, I feel like they can do it with Cad Bane, and it feel earned and it feel not out of place, especially for the super Western Boba Fett style show.
Then where's my Graballa the Hutt live action series is what I'm asking.
Carboni out here asking the real questions. I'm excited. The Cad Bane episode of Bad Batch is one of my favorite episodes of the season. So, and I totally forgot that Fennec was very key in that. So that's kind of cool. And I'm hopeful that we see something happen here. We have 5 episodes left in this show. So we are really still in the beginning moments. Like, do you guys expect, to kind of wrap this up here, do you guys expect that we're going to get many more flashbacks, or do you think that now that we've kind of ended this episode seeing him in the outfit that we meet him in Mandalorian, that it's like kind of maybe 1 or 2 more scenes to just finalize it and move on?
Yeah, I think they start to become minimized. I'm not going to say that we don't see any more, because certainly they want to. We don't know how much time passed between escaping the Sarlacc pit and getting to where he is now, right? We know he got his armor back. We know he helped. We know he helped the Tuskens. How long did it take from there for him to get where he is? Did he stay with the Tuskens? Did he go off world a little bit? Why is he in constant pain? Why does he need the back to tank all the time? I think there are a couple important things that we still haven't seen.
Especially like how did he get his ship back and stuff like that? Like, because that's how he follows Mando in season 2. Like, so I think there's little things like that. I don't know like how in depth it'll go. Is like, especially like moving on with like how much they might want to tell with like what's going on with him trying to be like a crime lord. I feel like we at least need like a solidified goodbye with the Tuskens. As like we need that, and then I feel like past that, I feel like we'll see less and less flashbacks.
But I'm gonna miss that weird green effect that they do.
Why are they doing that?
I don't know. And like
I think it's supposed to be like medical back to pain, and like that's the look of it.
Again, why do we always need to be like, I get it, it's like he's having these dreams, but like do we always need to like do the same shot of the bantha tank, and it's like he's gotta be laying down, he's like shaking a little, like I don't need that every time. Just like
can I tell you what I do love though? What I do love is Fennec feels the same way about it that we do. Where like he sits up and he's like, the dreams are here again. She's like, cool, put on some pants. People are here to see you. I don't have time to do your dream journal with you, my guy.
Question I have for you guys. Who were those 2 people that were at the bar or whatever it was when the gang came in and the boyfriend kind of stood up and was like,
oh yeah, and he was just like, it's not right. It's not fair. You drank my drink.
Oh. Are they supposed to be people, or... Because I feel like there was a lot of like attention given to them, where it made me feel like I think it was just know who they are.
I think it was just more of just laying the scene of like there are a couple of normies, local normies, and they're being bullied by this biker gang.
Yeah, how much do the syndicates really own and the crime families really own this planet and everywhere on this planet? We were seeing that, like we were just being shown how much it affects everybody's everyday life.
Oh, the chat. The chat's saying that it's Cammy and Fixer, Luke's childhood friends from a deleted scene in episode 4.
Oh.
Interesting.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if they're fucking with me or not.
They're credited as such, says Donnie C.
Oh my gosh, is it Cammy and Fixer? That's so funny. It didn't need to be.
Yeah, it didn't need to be. I feel like I feel like that, like them being named Cammy and Fixer was more of like an afterthought of like, who can we name these characters? Like, just make them Luke's childhood friends, and I think that's probably as much thought as they put into it.
That's so funny. Yeah, it didn't need to be them. I guess it's cool that it was.
Wait,
that's
they're also
fun.
Zpol 6 Gaming saying that was Tashi Station.
Yeah. That's where you go for your power converters.
Yeah, but wasn't it like more like a bar?
I mean, Tashi Station, you can imagine is going to be a big central hub, right, for people coming and going.
Okay, got
imagine
it.
a big train station. Imagine a train station or a center of commerce or a bus station or a truck stop. Like there aren't a lot of places on Tatooine to go get a drink, you know?
God, I love that these shows are happening and that they're just like Filoni and Jon Favreau are just like, all right, we're referencing everything. Like you think this is
Everyone's
fan fiction?
important.
Oh man, it's fan reality now, baby.
Everyone's important.
Wait, but he was
bringing in
credited
Cad Bane. Fuck you.
He was credited as Fixer and not Lays. Man, this is interesting.
I love you.
This is one of those moments where
I
I'm
love
just
you
like,
so much.
yo, are they planning like 5 years down the road the fucking Cammy and Fixer a Star Wars story? What's going on?
They don't plan things in Star Wars. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kinda Funny Screencast. Thank you so much for joining us. We will return next week with an episode 3 review, recap, whatever you want to call this. We're just having fun hanging out, talking about Star Wars, coming up with outlandish theories that inevitably we're going to be disappointed when they don't happen. But you know what? That's life nowadays. But we'll also be very excited if they do happen. So with that, I love you all. Let us know in the comments below what you thought. And until next time, goodbye.